Thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with Chris Chamasiros. So once again, Megyn Kelly, she's doing her pearl clutching. She's talking about the Jimmy Kimmel situation when Jimmy Kimmel made a joke about President Trump, or an alleged joke about President Trump and Melania Trump, excuse me. And I think it's just ridiculous. Jimmy Kimmel, the only thing that he said is Melania has a glow like a future widow or a soon to be widow. And everybody's losing their mind about this joke. And I just think it's completely ridiculous. Turn down my volume a little bit here. Give me a minute. Sorry about that. So Megyn Kelly, of course, she's doing the pearl clutching and she can't believe it. And she's just going on and on and on. I mean, did you ever think that Jimmy Kimmel is maybe just talking about President Trump and his age and that he's overweight? I mean, I didn't hear Jimmy Kimmel mention anything about an assassination, and everybody's taking this way out of context, and I believe it's for a few reasons. I believe Megyn Kelly is doing this because she is part of the problem, just like I believe that Tucker Carlson is part of the problem. I believe that they are bought and paid for also. Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson, I've said this over and over again, they're going to throw out the obvious. They know that Trump's presidency is over. They know that he's polling in the 25 percentile. And they'll get, Tucker and Megyn, they'll throw out the obvious that Israel's controlling Trump and the gas and the economy because they have no choice. They have a role to play. And I believe that our CIA put these two in this space, the two biggest names into this space, to control part of the narrative so they don't totally lose the narrative because nobody's watching corporate media anymore. And I believe today that Megyn Kelly, her whole pearl clutching was to make you forget 2 or 3 weeks ago that Melania Trump went on TV and she was talking about the Epstein files, saying that more elites are involved and there needs to be an investigation. I believe that this whole supposed, listen, whether it's staged or not staged, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about Trump anymore. I'm over it. I don't want to hear his name. But I believe that this is just a total, it's just to take your eyes off the ball. And nobody's talking about Melania Trump, how she came out a couple weeks ago. Without Trump's knowledge, nobody in the White House knew what she was going to say. And she comes out and she holds her own press conference saying that Congress and the Senate need to interview the witnesses in the Epstein case and more elites were involved. And everybody was shocked by Melania Trump's statements. And now what they're going to do, what the mainstream media is going to do, and yes, Megyn Kelly and yes, Tucker Carlson are still part of the corporate media, and the mainstream media, they just pretend like they're not. And what they're going to do is they're going to keep harping on this Jimmy Kimmel inappropriate joke to take your eyes off the prize. Let's go, listen, pause, time out. Let's talk about what Melania Trump had to say 2 or 3 weeks ago about the Epstein files, and now nobody's talking about it anymore. They're just talking about this lunatic that tried to assassinate President Trump, whether it was staged or not staged. Again, I don't care. It doesn't matter anymore. Multiple reports that the security was very relaxed. How do you have, you're the president of the United States of America. You know that people want to kill you. Trump doesn't know this. Of course, Trump knows that people want to kill him. And you have relaxed security? It's just total incompetency. Just like what the assassin wrote in his own manifesto. The amount of incompetency in this administration is mind-blowing. He's describing how he just walked into the hotel with firearms and nobody even checked them. It's like, Trump is always talking about how people want to take his life because he's getting so much accomplished, but yet he doesn't have top-notch security everywhere. Doesn't make sense. But listen, I'm not really here to talk about that. I really don't care. I'm really over it. I'm here to talk about what Megyn Kelly and the corporate media and what everybody's doing. They want you to forget what Melania Trump said 2 or 3 weeks ago about the Epstein files. Melania Trump should just never talk. She's not intelligent enough to talk. Melania, again, I have bad news for you. Your husband is the reason why the investigation didn't move forward. Your husband is the one that canceled the investigation. I mean, and that makes Trump look terrible. So this whole thing is just it's a distraction to deflect you from what Melania had to say about Epstein. And Melania will come out and she'll demand that Jimmy Kimmel be fired, and she'll get into all of these stupid things that Americans, we don't care about this. We don't care about it. How come Melania Trump doesn't address gas prices? How come Melania Trump doesn't talk about grocery shopping? How come Melania Trump doesn't talk about rents? Yeah, I wonder why, Melania. I mean, I know it's very difficult for you to relate to the common folk that voted your husband in to become the president of the United States of America, but hey, no big deal. No big deal that gas is now, the average gas price in my state, now it's like $4.30 a gallon. No big deal, right, Melania? You got better things to talk about, like a Jimmy Kimmel joke. His jokes are horrible. I don't even like Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, I don't want you to get the impression that I'm here defending Jimmy Kimmel, because I think he's a complete idiot and a moron. But guess who sounds even stupider? Guess who looks even stupider? Melania Trump and Donald Trump. They just look like complete idiots. I mean, Trump, he the first thing he comes out after this is, I need my ballroom. This just shows you why we need our ballroom. This wouldn't have happened. Maybe if you brought in the National Guard to do your security and you had like military checkpoints up, this doesn't happen. But hey, Trump, I mean, do it your way. It's really working. I mean, how does an idiot like this, whatever his name is, who even gives a shit? How does that even happen? You know how it happens? Because Trump surrounds himself with complete idiots. That's how. We're talking about billionaires that have all the money and power in the world, and they can't set up a perimeter checks the right way. They can't set up metal, weapon detectors, every 20 to 30 feet that take up the whole room. It's just like ridiculous. It's just so stupid. I'm so tired. I can't stand Trump at this point. I don't even want to talk about him. I don't even want to look at him. I don't want to hear his voice. Nothing. Just done. Melania and him demanding that Jimmy Kimmel be fired. Well, I feel that way about your husband right now. Why don't you talk about some important things, Melania, other than a bad take? I mean, was the joke even that bad? It's just like, whatever. I mean, your husband gets on X all the time talking about, oh, I'm happy this one died and that one died, and we're gonna end Iran, we're gonna end them into eternity, and then he claims to be Jesus Christ. I mean, are you outraged about that? Of course you're not. But they'll have the corporate media hounds like Megan Fox and Tucker Carlson. They'll try to switch the narrative away from the Epstein. Melania, let's go back to Melania 2 or 3 weeks ago, demanding that the Epstein investigation be opened again and that the victims be brought before Congress to testify. I'm sure Trump didn't like that at all, but hey, yeah. Let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel instead of gas prices. Let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel instead of Lebanon, where now Israel is stealing the land and the homes of the Lebanese and murdering their citizens. No big deal. Let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel. Let's see Megyn Kelly do her pearl clutching. She's sickening, this one, I'll tell you.
Thursday night, he decided to do a mock White House Correspondents' Dinner as the comedian who would have been, invited. They didn't have a comedian this year. They had a mentalist. Somebody actually made a funny comment about it because the mentalist was apparently on stage accurately telling Caroline Leavitt what her baby's name was going to be. Like he figured it out some magical way. And people were saying like he was literally on the stage when they like kneeling down by her at the time when the shots rang out. Somebody was like, there was a much more useful prediction you could have made in that moment if you really did have the magical powers, sir. Okay. Thank God everybody's okay. So Jimmy Kimmel does this mock White House Correspondents' Dinner comedian routine on Thursday night. And I'm just going to show you, I'm driving towards something here, but I'm going to just show you how unfunny the jokes were? Truly, we all think that we can be funny, but if you actually had to sit down and write jokes, and maybe you've tried to do this for a speech, you cross out everyone. You're like, this isn't funny. I thought I was funny, but I'm not. Wrong again, wrong. This is a much higher art form than I give comedians credit for. It's not for me. Jimmy Kimmel needed to come to that realization.
Why would any non-comedians try to write jokes? Like, it's just so like, are we? This is what they're gonna. It's just. Don't you see what goes on here? Don't you see what these paid hacks get paid to do? Let's go back to what Melania Trump said a couple weeks ago about the Epstein files, Megyn. How come you're not outraged about that? I mean, if you were really this, pearl clutcher like you claim to be and Miss Righteous, you wouldn't move off that topic. You wouldn't move off that subject, would you, Megyn? But we all know why you're doing. At least I know why you're doing it, Megyn.
These are so on the nose, like 11-year-old humor. Like an 11-year-old could come up with these stupid jokes. They're so obvious, not clever, not surprising, not even a mild laugh or like bemusement as you listen to them. Watch.
It's hard to get JD to come to an event like this. He's a real homebody. His wife had to peel him off the couch. Please do not get up from your seats during the performance because the vice president will them. Stephen Miller is so racist. The reason he went bald is because his hair was black. Stephen Miller puts the cyst in white supremacist. If anyone starts any trouble, fear not, because FBI Director Kash Patel is standing by. Waitress, can we get Kash a vodka soda and a booster seat, please? Okay. Pete's hair has more oil in it right now than the Strait of Hormuz. Bobby Kennedy, years ago, he wrote in his diary that he pulled his car over to the side of the road to carve the penis out of a raccoon. And his son asked him, Dad, why did you do that? Why did you chop the penis off a dead animal? And he looked at his son and he said, because I'm a psychopath. Now get out of this car and go get measles.
All right, Megyn, but when has Jimmy Kimmel ever been funny or talented? We all know why he's there. What's your point? What's with all the fake outrage, Megyn? We know. Come on. We don't want anybody talking about what Melania had to say a couple weeks ago about the Epstein files. Now let's turn the page from that. Trump's own wife comes out and sandbags him and said the Epstein files and investigation needs to be opened up. But Megyn Kelly, she's going to focus on Jimmy Kimmel and his terrible jokes that have been terrible his whole life.
Like, I don't even know where to begin.
Please
they had
don't.
Fake reaction
Nobody
shots
cares.
from administration officials. Nothing funny, nothing remotely clever. That didn't sound anything like RFKJ. He doesn't talk like that. He doesn't actually talk like that at all. For some reason, you gave him a Brooklyn accent, which he doesn't have. And the laugh track meant to boost his sagging audiences, I'm sure, like smattering of applause. Even leftists don't find that funny. That was so not funny. Jimmy Kimmel is not funny. And here he was, least funny of all. What he said about Melania Trump now is making major news.
This is making major news, but Melania Trump is not in the major news in the news feed talking about the Epstein files, that it needs to be reopened and how all these elites, there's more elites involved. And that should be the headline every day in the news cycle. But instead, we're going to move on to Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, you've heard me say it multiple times. It's just laughable. And Megyn Kelly knows exactly what she's doing right now. You can't trust her and you can't trust Tucker Carlson, because they'll say all the obvious things, but in the end, right before election time, they'll tell you to vote for J.D. Vance. They'll tell you to vote for Marco Rubio. They'll tell you to vote for Ron DeSantis. And all of them are bought and paid for by Israel. So this is all a charade.
I would think he would have learned after making light of the Charlie Kirk assassination, suggesting that the guy who did it, Tyler Robinson, who's been accused of doing it, is MAGA, remember? That led to his show getting pulled off the air for 5 days, and then they turned him into Rosa Parks on the left. But listen to the terrible, quote, joke he made about Melania Trump during the same routine.
And of course, our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
Oh my God, Megan, that was just so terrible. What are we gonna do? That was like the worst thing I've ever heard. I mean, it's like Nazi Germany all over again. That was just so terrible. It's just like, wow. You know, it's terrible when I go to the gas pump and it costs me like $65 to fill up my car. Or, you know, a bag of potatoes is $7. Or Melania Trump demanding that the Epstein files being reopened, or an illegal war that President Trump is, you know, unleashing in Iran, and how Israel is now committing another genocide in Lebanon. That is horrible, Megan. That is disgusting, vile behavior. But hey, let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel.
Who would make a joke like that knowing that Trump had almost been killed relatively recently? This is obviously before Saturday night, but I mean, it is not an exaggeration to say that Trump.
Megan, whether Jimmy Kimmel was telling jokes or not, regardless of what political party you are in, whether you're Hussein Obama, whether you're Joe Biden, whether you're Richard Nixon, no matter who you are, there's always lunatics that interpret your party and what you're saying, that, you know, like you're literally the reincarnation of Adolf Hitler and that you need to be taken out. So like you're trying to blame Jimmy Kimmel for this lunatic's behavior. Did you ever think maybe it's Trump's behavior that made this lunatic finally snap? Do you ever think maybe he lived in California, the gas prices made him snap? The genocides that are going on that Trump fully supports. Trump wants the land in Gaza so he can put up, you know, his own hotels and casinos, and they could build AI centers, covering up the Epstein file. Did you ever think it was Trump's fault, Megyn Kelly, that this lunatic finally just snapped and did what he did? Did that ever cross your mind, Megan? No, we're going to blame it on Jimmy Kimmel. And I hate Jimmy Kimmel. Like, I really hate him. I don't like him at all. So you'd be like, oh, you're defending Jimmy Kimmel. No, I'm not.
Was almost killed in July of 2024. That's recent. And for this guy to get up there and say she's got the glow of an expectant widow,
makes me sick.
like how insensitive can you be?
Oh my God,
Honestly,
Megan.
like, Trump, he's got children. He's got grandchildren. He does have a wife. He has millions of people who love him. And the glow of an expectant widow.
Oh
How
my
sick are you?
Oh my God.
I mean, truly, the left and the desensitivity that they're trying to create, you know, in people to the thought of political violence is truly pernicious. It's a force for evil in this country, and he doubles and triples and quadruples down on it every other week. Now, today, Melania Trump actually responded, which she never does. As you know, she does not seek the spotlight. Did you see her by chance the other night when Trump came out and spoke in the White House press briefing room after?
Melania doesn't seek the spotlight. Like, what is she going to do, Megan? I mean, she doesn't look very talented at all. I mean, what are Melania's talents that she should seek the spotlight other than being Donald Trump's wife? Let me know, please.
The shooter was apprehended, attempted shooter. Somebody asked a question about Melania and how she reacted. Of course, she hasn't been with Trump or by his side. You know, she wasn't right next to him on the stage in Butler or when Ruth tried to open fire on him on his golf course and so on. So poor Melania, you know, this is, I hate to say it so cavalierly, but her first assassination attempt, forgive me. So she puts out the following, and by the way, so Trump said, do you want to—
Wait, Trump is there with his wife. Trump is there with Melania Trump, his wife, right? Obviously, we know that. And he thinks that security should be lax. He's sitting there with his wife, and he thinks that security is not a big deal. This whole thing smells like just a weird operation to get everybody's eyes off the prize. Again, I don't think Trump knew the man. But if they lowered their guard a little bit, they knew some maniac could come running in and do whatever. And you know what? When you watch Trump's initial reaction to being told, he's just like, he doesn't look interested at all. He doesn't look worried at all. He's not moving at all. They're both kind of just sitting at the table, Melania and Donald, like, oh, just another day at the office. No big deal. A maniac with a gun is down the hallway. I'm just not buying it. I'm just not buying it. And, you know, knowing Trump and knowing how he operates now and knowing how Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson operate, again, let's pause this tape. Let's rewind this record and go back to 2 or 3 weeks ago when Melania Trump had her big speech about how the Epstein files need to be reopened and how the victims need to be called to the House floor or the Senate floor so they can be interviewed. And, Melania was throwing other billionaire big shots under the bus also, saying more elites were involved. But hey, let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel.
To say something at the end of that presser, and she does not like the spotlight. It's very rare when you hear Melania speak out. So she has today. She posted online, Kimmel's hateful and violent rhetoric is intended to divide our country. His monologue about my family isn't comedy. His words are correct.
Your husband has done a great job of dividing the country. And I'm a guy that voted for Trump 3 times. He's totally abandoned his base, Melania. And that's his fault. You know why, Melania? Because he put Israel first. He put his big chosen people's donors first over MAGA and American citizens. So the only person that's dividing the country, Melania, is your husband. Not Jimmy Kimmel. You know why? Nobody gives a shit about Jimmy Kimmel. Look at his ratings. Even your husband's like, nobody watches that show. So if nobody watches the Jimmy Kimmel show, how is he dividing America? Nobody cares, Melania. You know what we care about? The gas pump. You know what we care about? Food prices. You know what we care about? Rent and taxes. Something that your husband doesn't want to address at all because he knows at this point his presidency is completely over. He's a lame duck president.
Corrosive and deepen the political sickness within America. People like Kimmel should not have the opportunity to enter our homes each evening to spread hate. Wow, how about that? A coward, Kimmel hides behind ABC because he knows the network will keep running cover to protect him. Enough is enough. It is time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will ABC's leadership enable Kimmel's atrocious behavior at the expense of our community? Wow. How about that, guys? And that is extraordinary.
Melania, I mean, you really think you're in a position to preach to anybody about disgusting, despicable behavior? After what your husband has done to the Republican Party, what he has done to MAGA, Trump does not care about the midterm elections. He doesn't care about the 2028 presidential election either. He doesn't care if a Republican ever wins again, just so he can look back and be like, look, see, they can't win without me. And how do we know that? How do we know that's true? By all the decisions that he's been making, putting America last. That's how we know. They're just, you know what?
That's the closest I've heard to her, Melania, getting, explicitly political and actually appears to be calling for him to be fired, obviously. Enough is enough. It's time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will they allow him and his atrocious behavior to go on? Well, no sooner did she post that than I'd say 2 or 3 hours later, we get this from her husband, who is the president of the United States. Wow, Jimmy Kimmel, who is in no way funny, as attested to by his terrible TV ratings, made a statement on his show that is really shocking. He showed a fake video of the First Lady Melania and our son Barron like they were actually sitting in his studio listening to him speak, which they weren't and never would be. He then stated, our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow. A day later, a lunatic tried entering the ballroom of the White House Correspondents' Dinner, loaded up with a shotgun, handgun, and many knives. He was there for a very obvious and sinister reason. I appreciate that so many people are incensed by Kimmel's despicable call to violence and normally would not be responsive to anything that he said, but this is something far beyond the pale. Jimmy Kimmel should be immediately fired by Disney and ABC. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Trump.
Jimmy Kimmel should be fired, Trump. Laura Loomer this weekend, CENK UYGUR and Anna Kasparian, she doxed their families in trying to inspire people to commit acts of violence against them. How come Trump is not calling out Laura Loomer, his personal assistant, who he's on the phone with every single day? But he wants Jimmy Kimmel fired, but he doesn't want Laura Loomer arrested. Go figure, Trump. I mean, we all know why you don't want her arrested. I mean, she works for Benjamin Netanyahu, but we'll get to that video in a few minutes.
It's pretty explosive. I can only imagine the oh shit moment that any normal person would have after saying she has the glow of an expectant widow, and within 48 hours, someone tries to kill her husband.
Megyn.
Like a normal person would have a complete meltdown at that series of events.
Oh, yeah.
It was bad enough. Poor Caroline Levitt in a pre-interview before the event got kicked off was talking about the president's expected speech, which always historically includes, it's all about barbs against the media. That's the fun thing of having him there. You make fun of him and do corrosive coverage of him all year long. And with your typical president, they never say anything about you. And this is their big night to rip on you, the press, by name and network and so on. President Trump does it differently. As you know, he's nonstop ripping. But she said, oh, there's going to be some shots fired tonight. And some nutcases on the internet are now suggesting she was in on it. Okay, get a grip. Get a grip, people.
The only one who needs to get a grip is you, Megyn. Seriously. The pearl clutching, and you're just so outraged. And, you know, every other show, you're dropping an F-bomb like, you know, like a little kid in grade school that just cursed for the first time. It's like, we know. Pay attention, everybody. Megyn Kelly's trying to distract you from Melania Trump's press conference, demanding that the Epstein files case be reopened and to interview the witnesses in the case, and that more elites were involved. That's what she's trying to distract you from.
It's a figure of speech. If you haven't used that phrase, you need to expand your vocabulary. But this was, you know, pretty extraordinary for this guy 48 hours before to say she's got the glow of an expectant widow. I mean, if President Trump, God forbid, had been killed at that event, can you imagine? Can you imagine?
You want to blame Jimmy Kimmel for that? If this maniac pulled this off, you don't want to blame his security detail? Multiple reports how Trump's security was like pretty much mall cop. You know, Paul Blart from Mall Cop was Trump's security. That it was so lax. You don't want to blame the people around Trump trying to protect him. You want to blame Jimmy Kimmel. And Jimmy Kimmel Jimmy Kimmel didn't tell people to go kill Trump. So it's just like they will do anything to try to distract you from the real issue. And I'm not going to say it over, but we all know it's to distract you from Melania's press conference 3 weeks ago.
ABC would have no choice but to rip this guy off the air once and for all. He's irresponsible. He is so deeply offensive. Truly, imagine someone saying that about Michelle Obama. Imagine what the reaction would be. Just think about that for a second. Think of if somebody had said that about Erica Kirk before Charlie had been killed. Like, these predictions, I'm not saying that the shooter was motivated by Jimmy Kimmel, though, to be honest.
You are saying that. You are saying that the shooter was motivated by Jimmy. What are you talking about, Megyn? That's what you are insinuating. Now you're not saying that? I mean, it's just like, do you hear yourself? Do you hear how stupid you sound? I mean, I know you have to do what you're told. We all know, you know, like, Megyn, you and Tucker are just total frauds. So, make sure at the end of this video, you tell everybody, well, go vote for J.D. Vance. Go vote for Marco Rubio. Go vote for Ron DeSantis. Yeah, I wonder why you're saying that, Megyn.
Who knows if he'd watched that episode? I don't. I'm saying this is irresponsible talk, given his professional position. You don't make jokes about assassinations of the president.
He didn't make a joke about assassinations at all. He didn't. The word didn't come out of his mouth ever. Trump he's 80 years old. He eats McDonald's every day. He doesn't look healthy. Did you ever think it was about his health? Not one time did Jimmy Kimmel say anything about this, an assassination, nothing. You're just taking this and you're running wild with it, pearl clutching to distract from Melania's press conference from 3 weeks ago. So,
especially when he's had multiple assassination attempts against him. Okay, you don't make light of it. Honestly, and I'll say one other thing. I can even understand in the wake of an assassination, easy for me to say, assassination attempt, to like a comedian like Jay Leno, who's universally beloved and is not known as a partisan hack, who actually really does hate the president who just got shot, making a joke like that was in good faith. You could find a way, like that's not in bad taste, to help the nation heal. That's actually always been one of the great roles of our great comedians, to help us heal through humor. This was not that. We were not healing from anything. It was in advance of a massive.
Jay Leno helps the nation heal when we're having problems. Wow. Talk about an elitist. Like Jay Leno's show is hard. It's just like, whatever, Megyn. Keep up the great work, Megyn.
Gathering where he knew the president would be attending, and Melania too. He was pretending that he was at the
Jay Leno's jokes in his show is literally like getting a root canal with no Novocaine.
event and that he was the comedian there, and just sending the message out to, whomever follows that show, that wouldn't it be funny? It's so funny to think of Trump dead and Melania as a glowing widow. It's just sick. So we'll see. Ball's in your court, ABC. You're not going to be able to.
You see, well, there is a lot of rumors out there and reports that Melania can't stand Trump. She's just so sick of him. And Megyn Kelly, she's really plugged in. And for her to act like she doesn't hear those reports, she knows that she's lying. So, then she'll try to spin it like, oh, Jimmy would be happy if Trump was assassinated. No, maybe Jimmy's just trying to say that Melania's like young and beautiful and she's so sick of Trump that if Trump died from a Big Mac or because he doesn't take care of himself, that Melania would be the glowing widow. But of course, Megyn's going to pearl clutch and take this to a whole new dimension.
Ignore this. You are not going to be able to ignore both the president and the first lady. She's even more powerful than he is in this particular moment on this particular issue.
Oh my God. Now Melania Trump is more powerful than President Trump in this moment. Really? If that's the case? Well, if that is the case, Megyn, then how come when Melania gives her press conference to open up the Epstein files and do an investigation, everybody, including yourself, is just turning the page and pretending like she didn't say it if she's just so powerful?
Speaking out. We'll see. Ball's in your court. Do the right thing. Honestly, I can't imagine this. Think about it. ABC fired Chris Harrison from The Bachelor because a bachelorette on that show went to an antebellum party years earlier when she'd been a, young college student, and they thought that was racially insensitive. And all Chris Harrison said was, are we judging her by the standards of today or by the standards of when she did it? That's all he said. And ABC ruined him. He's never been heard from again. Have you seen Chris Harrison hosting some network show? No, his life was ruined. His career was ruined. But you can say this as Jimmy Kimmel, as the face of ABC. You can say,
well, Megyn, your husband is on the Mossad payroll. Maybe he can give his friends a call. We all know who runs ABC. Maybe he should give his friends a call and get the guy back his job. Come on, Megyn.
She's got the glow of an expectant widow about a husband who was almost killed at least once, and 2 other times attempts were obviously in the making. And now a 4th. Very ill-timed. Too bad for Jimmy. What are you going to do about it, ABC? Thanks for watching this clip.
Oh, Megyn, please. That was like one of your, what are you going to do about it, ABC? Okay, Megyn. Whatever. How come you don't call, Megyn, since you're like this voice of morality now, how come you don't call out President Trump? How come you don't talk about Melania calling out her own husband? How come you don't say, hey, Trump, what are you going to do about it? Your own wife just called you out about the Epstein files. You need to open those up again. You need to investigate. I'm sure your husband, I'm sure Dougie wouldn't like that, Megyn. A lot of people that work in media, they pretend to be good people and they're really not good people at all. So they play the role like they are and they're not. Wow, look at this. It's freezing. I wonder why. What's going on here? Okay, it unfroze. Thank God. That could have been trouble for me.
Go to ground.news/T.
All right, so hold on one second. Let this, I have
Only
ad
available
problems.
on
I'm not
Fanatics
giving
Casino.
YouTube $20
Test
a month.
Israel. You can't boycott them.
Okay, so this is what Megyn Kelly should be outraged about, and this is what the mainstream media should be enraged about whether you're a Republican or Democrat. Cenk Uyghur's wife and Anna Kasparian's husband were doxxed by the lunatic Laura Loomer. You know, she's inspiring everybody to commit violence against these two because she considers them anti-Israel. They're not anti-Israel. They're just telling the truth. What Israel is doing to the United States of America and what they're doing around the world. And this is who all the media pundits should be outraged. They should be, right now, they should all be talking about Laura Loomer, the lunatic. But of course they won't. And Trump, you know, he's demanding that Jimmy Kimmel be fired. And for anybody that doesn't know, Laura Loomer is on the phone with Trump 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. How come Trump doesn't call out Laura Loomer for inciting political violence? Well, we all know why, because she works for Benjamin Netanyahu. That's why. So let's let Cenk and Anna Kasparian tell you what happened.
If you work in the government?
That's correct. If you're like a government contractor.
Tim Pool, if you ever see Tim Pool without the beanie on, he looks just like Benjamin Netanyahu. It's probably his nephew. Like, don't let him fool you. When he takes the beanie off, he looks like he's 70 years old.
You mean if you're a private company that does government contracting?
That's correct.
You can't boycott Israel.
That's correct. You can't boycott Israel.
You better be careful, baby girl, because pretty soon every single one of your family members is going to get doxxed by the Israel first terrorists within our own borders. But if you're wondering who that was comedian Leonardo Joni on Tim Pool's show, where Tim Pool was pretending to not know what's going on in this country at all when it comes to an issue that he purported to care so much about, censorship. But you know, there's a lot of censorship.
For anybody that doesn't know, Tim Pool gets direct checks from Benjamin Netanyahu. He's on the payroll. So it's undeniable. And tell him to take off the beanie. Look at pictures of Tim Pool without the beanie on. You'll be like, wow, that's Netanyahu's twin brother.
Happening right now as it pertains to criticism over Israel. And Cenk and I have gotten a little taste of what it's like if you dare to criticize Israel. We're gonna get to that in just a minute, but first your 2 cents, Cenk.
Yeah, so Laura Loomer doxed my wife over the weekend, and then she did it again to Anna's husband. That's the second go around. So there are Israeli terrorists that are inside America, and their job is to terrorize innocent Americans who criticize Israel.
Pro-Israel terrorists.
Sorry, yes.
Because they're not all Israeli.
No, they're not Israeli. They're largely.
Yeah, and Laura Loomer is not Israeli. She works for them. She works for Benjamin Netanyahu, and she's literally has Trump on speed dial all the time. And this is who after what Laura Loomer did this weekend, you know, last weekend she was using racial slurs towards Candace Owens. Nobody really talked about it. No big deal. She could say whatever she wants. Now she's calling for violence against Cenk Uyghur and Anna Kasparian. Trump doesn't have any problem with this, and he won't say anything about it. And we all know why, because she works for Israel. That's why. So Trump, Megyn Kelly, Tucker, they're all hypocrites. Because regardless of you're a Republican or a Democrat and you see Laura Loomer do something like this to Cenk's family and Anna Kasparian's family, and you think that that's right, no, you're the problem. And Laura Loomer, she should be arrested for doxing people. She should be arrested and spend time in prison.
Americans who value Israel 10 billion times more than America.
And where are the authorities? How come the police don't go arrest her for what she's doing? It's clearly inciting violence and harassment, and they won't do anything to her because we all know who her boss is. That's why.
And in fact, they have great disdain for any Americans who object and try to literally ruin their lives and their families. And we're going to prove it to you right here.
So it started with Laura Loomer over the weekend, where she got very touchy when Cenk wondered, who's paying Laura Loomer? Like, she spends all day on X. Like, you can't bankroll your lifestyle by making money off X.
Everybody wants these, but nobody wants to do these.
Weirdo.
And everybody
Weirdo alert.
wants these.
Okay, like,
we all know who's bankrolling her. Netanyahu, that's who. I mean, let's be serious.
who's paying you to live? Okay,
So, by the way, that's not just conjecture. Wall Street Journal, I happened to read a story from a little while ago where Wall Street Journal confirmed that she has donors that finance what she does. And what she does is spread hatred and bigotry. She's an avowed racist and bigot towards Arabs and Muslims. And
don't forget Candace Owens. We all know what she was calling Candace Owens, but hey, nothing to see there, right? Come on, Megyn Kelly. I mean, where's Megyn with her fake outrage and pearl clutching?
So who's funding that bigotry? I'll take a guess that those are the same people complaining about bigotry when it's anti-Semitism. The same people going, anti-Semitism is the worst thing in the world. And they're like, okay, now I'm gonna pay you a lot of money, Laura. Make sure everybody hates Muslims. We love bigotry when it comes to Muslims and now soon Christians. So who's financing her? And that was a very touchy thing for her.
Very touchy.
The people financing her are extremely wealthy and they go around in polite society and they pretend that they're wonderful people who care about bigotry. If their friends and their polite social circles found out that they're financing bigotry and hatred in this country,
Laura Loomer,
and financing people like Laura Loomer, it might get uncomfortable in the cocktail parties. So that's why she goes into hyperdrive to attack me and Anna.
So she posted, and I only have a portion of her post, but she's like, let me tell you a secret about Cenk UYGUR and the way he lies about Jews while financially benefiting from them. Number one, neither Cenk nor
I don't think any Jewish people are paying Cenk UYGUR anything. So, I mean, it's just so stupid.
I attack Jews, okay? Jewish people are people who believe in Judaism, practice Judaism. I've got no issue with Judaism. I have a problem with a political ideology, as Cenk does, that makes people think that it's okay to.
That's what, like, I get all these weird emails and stuff and X messages, and that's always my response is like, you're accusing me of hating you because you picked Judaism as a form of worship. Do you realize how ignorant and stupid you sound right now? No, I have a problem with Israel controlling our government and controlling our military and putting America into endless debt, endless wars. We pay for every Israeli's free healthcare. We pay for their free college. We pay for them to have children. We pay for their border. We pay for their Iron Dome. And then you have Benjamin Netanyahu get on TV and say, we don't need America's money. We don't need their military. Well, you know, it's time to call their bluff. It's time to do an audit and remind him of all the money we give him. And, you know, he's not appreciative of anything. Nothing's ever good enough. It's just so ridiculous. It's just like, grow the F up already.
Slaughter innocents to expand borders. And that's what's happening right now with Israel. That is not a commentary on the entire Jewish population. Now, if you happen to be a Jewish person who believes it's okay to slaughter people and steal land, yeah, I got a problem with you. Not because you're Jewish, I have a problem with you because of your ideology.
Isn't it so pathetic that Anna even had to explain, but that's what you're dealing with. And then the next thing will be, you don't think Israel has the right to exist. It's like there's a whole playbook that they use to try to get away with the things that the genocides they're committing, the homes that they're stealing, the people that they're murdering. It's a whole playbook they do.
And because you're a deeply immoral person.
Exactly.
Okay.
As I would have the same problem with someone, let's say someone who's Christian and thinks the same thing, right? A Christian nation that wants to do the same thing.
And I make everybody feel better and just say, I would have the same problem with a school, you know what, because they're white and whatever. I mean, it's just so stupid. It's like dealing with children.
Wrong, it is immoral, it is against all of my values. It's supposed to be against the values that we're all taught from a young age. But anyway, her post included menacing statements like, do all her Jewish clients in Beverly Hills know what a raging Jew hater and liar her Muslim pro-Hamas husband is? When has Cenk ever said he's pro-Hamas?
It doesn't matter.
Totally made up.
She just lies about everything. So she's targeting my wife. So what happened next is people started talking about where she's doing, where she has her office. So now we've got to worry about safety. And then she put up her picture and she put up her name and the name of her business.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
inciting violence, let's be clear.
Yeah. And then they started saying, okay, we're gonna find her clients and we're gonna tell them that she's a Jew hater. Not remotely true. Wendy doesn't care, like doesn't touch these topics.
Cenk, you don't have to explain. Please just stop, okay? You don't have to go there.
At all, okay? Let alone the fact that obviously we don't hate Jewish people.
You empower these idiots by even responding and trying to make it, no, she doesn't. Why empower them even more? You don't owe them an excuse when they say ignorant things like, oh, you hate all Jewish people. And then you try to explain it. It's like you're empowering them. Don't even respond. I'd be like, whatever, think whatever you want. I don't care.
And then, and it just.
Why do Zionists believe in collective punishment? I want to know. Why do they think it's okay to go after family members? I mean, in the case of Israel, they'll just slaughter entire families, right? No matter what.
Yeah, she's right.
But in this case, what do our spouses have to do with our political opinions? Which, by the way, are totally fine. Our political opinions are based in morality.
And besides which, we're Americans. We're allowed to have any opinion we like, okay? I know Israelis hate.
It's called Jewish supremacy. Like, stop being afraid to say it. You both know what it is, and that's what it is. So you don't get a pass just because you're like they say. They have no problem saying white supremacy. They have no problem saying black supremacy. They have no problem, whatever. But nobody's allowed to talk about the big elephant in the room. It's called Jewish supremacy. That's why they think they have the right to do the things that they're doing, and they think that a lot of them think that they're above the Constitution of the United States of America. Look at Randy Fine in Florida. Look at what Ron DeSantis is doing. A girl was arrested in Florida, a young college girl, because she made a joke about bonbons. And the judge said, well, that could be related to Israel. That could be considered violent. It's a joke. And she's facing felony charges. So that's called Jewish supremacy. Every race is allowed to be criticized in America. Blacks, whites, Hispanics, Muslims. Everybody's allowed to get criticism. Everybody's allowed to have jokes made about them. But there is a certain specific group, God's chosen people. You're not allowed to say anything about them or you'll head to prison. That's called Jewish supremacy. Just say it.
That they hate our rights, they hate our freedom of speech, and people who are pro-Israel in this country who hire these Gestapo, these terrorists to try to terrorize any American. I've got more on that in a second. Look, one of the biggest problems with political media right now isn't just.
All right, I'm going to end that with that. You heard what CENK and this. Hold on, let me see something.
Reporting from a crime that are being framed, and ground news makes that obvious. Wants to feed
and writing terrible things, but they try to ruin subscription directly through ground news.
Bear with me.
But on top of that, not only do they go after your family, but they try to ruin their businesses, etc. So they started going on Yelp and doing low reviews for Wendy's business, and then writing terrible things, etc. So that an average person looking won't know that there's these weirdo terrorists inside the country that try to destroy any American who doesn't bow their heads. So, and then they started talking about all the different ways that they could destroy her family, or my family and her business. And if you read the justifications, it is really telling. They're like, it doesn't matter, they're against Israel, so their whole lives should be ruined. We should ruin their family, we should try to drive a wedge between them, destroy everything he has, destroy everything she has. You know who talks like that? Terrorists talk like that.
Yeah.
And that is their job.
And don't forget, Nazis talk like that. Mark Levin likes to call it, Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro likes to call everybody that doesn't agree with the government of Israel Nazis and thugs. Well, Nazis act like that too. So you don't be afraid to say it.
Is to terrorize all of us so that we kneel to Israel.
So look, I'm not whining about this as like, oh, I'm a victim, I'm a victim. No. I just want the whole world to know who these people are and how they operate, okay? Because it is important for people to know who the bad guys are. And these people are bad guys. I'll give you another example. So after Loomer posted that, the account Stop Anti-Semitism reposted it saying, did we just read this correctly? Anti-Semite Cenk Uygur's wife. By the way, we should sue them. We should sue Leora Rez for calling you an anti-Semite.
Yes, you should. You should sue them. You should absolutely sue them.
Because there's no evidence of that whatsoever. You have never even once attacked Jewish people. You have always been critical of the Israeli government. We should sue her. And we should also sue them for inciting violence against our spouses, but she posted that, right? And by the way.
No, she should be arrested because if the role was reversed and you were doing that to a chosen one, you would be arrested in a heartbeat, especially in Florida. I mean, you can't even make a joke in Florida now.
Really? Beverly Hills has a Jewish population of 70%? Bitch, are you high? What are you talking about? What is she even talking about? And okay, so would you prefer for Cenk's wife to put a notice up saying, I will not, because of my husband's political views on Israel, I will not take any Jewish clients? Is that what you're asking for? Like, what is this?
Do you yeah, that's a great point. Do they?
It's called a shakedown. It's called character assassination. I mean, they specialize in this all the time. Strong arm you know, oh, you're not going to do and say what we want. You're not going to turn a blind eye why we commit multiple genocides and now we're stealing, you know, as they're murdering Christians in Lebanon, stealing their homes, stealing their land, murdering their children. Oh, you're not going to agree to that? You're an anti-Semite, you're a neo-Nazi, and now we're going to ruin your life because you didn't agree with that type of behavior. It's just sickening. It's just sickening.
Want her to actively discriminate against Jewish clients? It's so bizarre. And think about it, guys. None of this logic makes any sense. I mean, even calling it logic is absurd. So they said earlier, you know, Laura Loomer did, CENK took money from benefits from Jews and took money from Jewish investors. Well, that's true. Now, why do you think that happened? Because I'm an anti-Semite, or they thought I was an anti-Semite? Do you think that that makes any sense at all? No, of course not. And you know, look, this is not to say all my friends are Jewish, etc. And people hate it when you say, "Oh, well, if you have Jewish friends or family, shut up. You're not allowed to say it."
No,
that's
you
another
should say
weird
it.
rule. It's a weird rule. Okay?
You should say it.
So I don't have Jewish friends for the last 50 years because it was a 50-year plot. At the end, I jump out of a birthday cake and go, "Ha ha! I was kidding. I'm just an anti-Semite." No, we grew up together, but that's not even what I'm driving at with this. So on top of all that, this is their weirdo logic. Did Robert Greenwald from Brave New Films save this company back in 2005? He did, and I love the brother for that. And you know what Robert Greenwald's doing now? He's fighting as hard as he possibly can against Israel's war crimes and genocide and aggression, okay? Because these guys who are Israel first assume that every Jewish person is as vicious as they are and is willing to do terrorism on behalf of Israel and to excuse Israel's terrorism. That's not remotely true. 63% of Jews in this country support Israel, but are against the current government of Israel. That's a very inconvenient fact.
A lot of Jewish people do not like Benjamin Netanyahu. So there's like a good percentage, 50, 60%.
For them, because then they'd have to call the majority of Jews anti-Semites.
And for anybody that doesn't know, in Israel, which I'm surprised they even allow it, there is a media that's like totally against him, that talk about him negatively all the time. And I was kind of shocked when I first heard it. I thought for sure that, you know, Netanyahu would not allow that in his country. But I mean, there's I guess you would call it the left, you know, they're the leftist media in Israel that bash him all the time for his behavior.
So that's why they never mention that fact. And some of the best fighters like Robert Greenwald, Glenn Greenwald, and a million others, Dave Smith, I can go with Jeffrey Sachs, Gideon Levy, etc., are Jewish and they fight for peace. So, and we mention that on almost every show, okay? Because, and that is why they hate people who are Jewish, who are decent and moral people, because it makes it harder to call everyone an anti-Semite. Last part of that for now is, yesterday I was at an event giving a speech. Bunch of Arab Christians and Muslims came up to me and said, "Oh, they do this to us all the time. I got fired from this place, I got fired from that place, because all I did was support Palestinians or Lebanese people on social media." And all of a sudden, these thugs showed up out of nowhere and intimidated my boss so much until they fired me, right?
Yeah.
So that's happening to innocent Americans all across the country, including Christians. But then,
come on, Megyn Kelly, where's the pearl clutching? When are you going to talk about this, Megyn? I mean, you're the voice of morality. When are you going to talk about it, Megyn? Oh, no, nothing to see there, right, Megyn? Let's focus on Jimmy Kimmel of all people.
One of the women at Jewish Voices for Peace came up to me and she said, "You know, they targeted me too." And she's Jewish because she's for peace. She said that they called her a self-hater and tried to destroy her life. This isn't about religion. This is about these radical zealots that have lost their minds, that are supporting this fascist state that keeps attacking all of their neighbors, taking their land, that just slaughtered 23,000 children in Gaza. So, and now it's not enough. All Americans must bow their heads. So then they go after Anna's husband.
So then Rachel, oh, I know who you are, Rachel. Be careful. The Persian Jewess, as she goes by on X. Interesting. Your account was launched in 2021, but you didn't start posting anything until October of 2023. But anyway, so she goes after my husband, and I just want to show everyone how hot my husband is. Take a look. Take a look. That ass, though. Okay, so look. went after him. He is a baseball coach. Okay, he's not a political figure. He's a baseball coach. So you're gonna go after him and try to get him fired from his job. It backfired stupendously. And look, I personally am not afraid of anyone, but the idea of someone in my family getting targeted by these lunatics infuriates me. And guess what? Twitter has no problem with one particular group of people engaging in this type of doxing, right? Doxing is against TOS, but apparently if Zionists do it, if Israel defenders do it, totally okay.
Yeah,
which I
exactly.
find fascinating here.
Exactly.
Very fascinating.
Anybody else would get arrested. But hey, Laura Loomer can do it out in the open. Megyn Kelly will pretend she didn't see it. Donald Trump, as he clutches his pearls, also demanding that Jimmy Kimmel be fired. He doesn't have a problem with, he knows that Laura Loomer did this to Anna and CENK UYGUR. Of course he knows. He knows everything that Laura Loomer does because Laura Loomer tells him exactly what she's doing.
People have nothing to do with politics. He's never uttered a word about Israel.
Yeah, neither is Wendy, but it doesn't matter. They have to destroy your family members, but they were about to tell you that. We're gonna show you videos of that, but they weren't done with, now Hassan is a family member, but that doesn't count. He's a public figure. My nephew's Hassan Piker, and Laura Loomer said, how come Hassan Piker isn't in jail? So because if you, taking away your freedom of speech is not enough.
And what should he be in jail for? I mean, does he commit crime? He doesn't threaten anybody. I don't agree with his political beliefs, but what has he done that he belongs? He's done nothing. The only thing he does is he's critical of Israel. And these lunatics, they really think that anybody that's critical of Israel should be in prison. They really believe that. And so don't think that they don't.
Enough. Taking away your livelihood is not enough. Okay, this Gestapo is like, take the people criticizing Israel and stuff them into jail. You're taking our rights? You're taking Americans' rights away from us? Who the F are you? When did you become the boss of us? And I know why they're allowed to do.
If you think you're bigger than the Constitution, if you think you're better than being criticized, if you don't like freedom of speech, get on a plane, go back to Israel. That's simple.
This because when Hassan makes a bad comment, Jake Tapper and everybody on cable news has talked 24/7. Politicians should distance themselves. He should be canceled, and any politician who talks to him should be canceled. Canceled. Then Laura Loomer's like, oh, let's destroy people's families. Let's put people into jail because of opposing Israel. And cable news is like, yeah, that's totally fine. No cancellation of Laura Loomer or Mark Levin, who's constantly talking about deporting people and taking away our rights. No one on cable news cares about any of that. No one in mainstream media cares about any of that because we're not important pro-Israel people. We're just lowly Americans. And Americans, who cares about you? Israel's allowed to bully you, terrorize you. They're allowed to do anything they want to you because they're almighty Israel and they are superior to you. And you should just know your role and submit to them. Otherwise, you're gonna be fired, your family's gonna
be good little goyim, be good little cattle, do exactly what you're told. And if you resist in any type of way, we want to imprison you.
To be targeted, wait. You might say, hey, Cenk, did they really say that? Let's go to video 2 so you can see it with your own eyes.
We will shine a light on you that thanks to Google and SEO will follow you for the rest of your life. When you look for a job, when you look for a...
Look how disgusting this demon is. She thinks that anybody that criticizes Israel, that they can follow you around and ruin and destroy your life. Who the F are you, demon? Who are you, demon?
House, when you look for a nanny, when you look for anything, our work will always be documented. Again, thanks to Google and SEO. Today, Stop Anti-Semitism, I'm proud to say.
If anybody needs to be deported, it's this piece of garbage right here.
Runs one of the most robust anti-Semitic enforcement operations in the United States. Monitoring campuses, digital networks, activist groups, and public officials, documenting incidents in real time and mobilizing millions of people, of allies.
Translation, if you criticize us in any type of way, we're gonna put you on a list and try to destroy your life. That's what she's saying. She's threatening all of us right now because she has this attitude that she's bigger than the Constitution of the United States of America. They think they're like this special class that nobody can criticize them, and they openly say it. And you know what the most amazing thing is? How come none of the chosen ones' racism ever counts? No, it's only everybody else. Only everybody else is racist. All the goyim are racist. But their racism towards everybody that's not Jewish, that never counts. Right, exactly.
that are quietly by our side.
So she's speaking at the Israeli embassy and saying, you just heard her, any American who objects to Israel, they will call an anti-Semite, and then they will go after their family, their livelihood, and they will, and by the way, stopantisemitism.com, recent reports, Canary Mission, recent reports, but it turns out that maybe some of their founders are from Israel. But no, mainstream media, don't ever investigate them. Pretend they're the good guys. You know they get quoted all the time on cable news. They're like, and so when she talks about the quiet people supporting us and our mission, she's referring to mainstream media, because mainstream media then picks up those reports, doesn't analyze them at all, and then helps them attack American families that dare to disagree with Israel.
I don't think it's mainstream media. It's, they're a little group of people who, so for instance, in the case of someone's workplace, right? They're attacking someone's family member and they want to get that family member fired from their workplace. They'll just start like sending a ton of messages and tagging that workplace's social media accounts to try to get that person fired. That's what they're referring to.
No, I got you, they do that, but then the media, instead of saying, wait, what is this weirdo group representing a foreign government that's terrorizing any American that criticizes, like if you just fill in the blank for any other country, if there was a group that was like, if you criticize Bulgaria, we're gonna destroy your family, people would write stories about that. Like, what is that? Super weird. If the Russians were doing it, if the Chinese were doing it, but when the Israelis and the Israeli lovers do it, they're like, nope. In fact, we're gonna quote them as if it's real.
Yeah.
We're gonna take their out of context quotes, their videos, etc. We're gonna help them smear all of you and destroy any American who dares to cover the truth about Israel. Wait, we're not done yet. Now, that she was speaking of the Israeli embassy. She's a lady from stopantisemitism.com, draped in the Israeli flag, terrorizing Americans. Here comes Rabbi Yehuda Kaplan, and let's see what he has to say.
The scourge of anti-Semitism must be defeated anywhere and everywhere that it exists.
Does your racism ever count? Does your genocides ever count? Does your murder ever count? Does your land theft ever count? Does it count when you control the United States government and military and put us into endless debt, endless wars? Does that count? Does it count when the American taxpayers tax to death to pay for all your freebies? Is that anti-Semitism also? Let me know when I'm lying.
As we just heard before, from holding universities accountable to using laws within the Justice Department, existing laws, to hold and prosecute crimes against the Jewish community, from preventing people from working and going to worship in their shuls. And then, as was touched on very briefly, but a visa vetting program that we are just beginning now to see the results.
They're doing a real good job fighting anti-Semitism. They're not multiplying it at all through their actions.
There at the end, he says, like, basically, we're telling the American government who they can and cannot admit into America based on whether they've criticized Israel. Okay, all under the guise of fighting anti-Semitism, and they do it to Jewish people too. It has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. Last thing, when I went to a university tour with my family a couple of weeks ago, I told some of the members in a bonus episode about it. Students kept coming up to me, not just Muslim students, black students, white students, kept coming up to me at all the different campuses going, oh, thank God you guys are saying something, because we can't say anything on campus. They're making lists of anyone who goes to a protest or says anything about Israel, and they're saying that they're gonna make sure that we can't get jobs coming out of college.
Yep.
Okay, what is this? This is insane. I go to give those speeches as I told you about. After every speech, at least a half a dozen people come up from every room saying that they've been fired for either criticizing Israel or just supporting Palestinians.
Absolutely disgusting. And when you see somebody like Patrick Bet-David, now he's pushing Ron DeSantis. They always push J.D. Vance. They always push Marco Rubio. They're all part of this. Ron DeSantis, look what he's doing in Florida, getting rid of freedom of speech. Again, a college student, she was arrested for making bonbon jokes that somehow got turned into, she was talking about Israel. Now she's facing felony charges. Ron DeSantis is a piece of garbage, just like J.D. Vance, just like Marco Rubio. And this is absolutely disgusting.
Including Christians who said, well, okay, yes, but there's also Christians in the West Bank and Gaza Strip and Lebanon, and I want to support them. You're fired. You're being anti-Semitic for being pro-Christian. You're being anti-Semitic if you care about Muslim lives lost. If you care about kids who are dead, you're anti-Semitic and your life will be ruined and your family will be targeted. Now, who's a terrorist?
How many?
These are terrorists, and they because they are trying to literally terrorize real Americans in this country. And the terrorist sympathizers is every media ghoul and goblin that helps them terrorize us and covers up all of their vicious attacks against innocent Americans.
Every time you ring the bell,
Disgusting, isn't it? Absolutely disgusting. Hey, Megyn Kelly, shouldn't you be outraged about this? Shouldn't President Trump be outraged about this? Of course they're not. You know why? Because we all know who controls them. They're bought and paid for too. So disgusting. Just absolutely disgusting. Where's your pearl clutching, Megyn? How come you're not talking about that? No, you'll talk about Jimmy Kimmel of all people. Just a joke. She's just, Megyn Kelly's a disgrace too. Give me a minute. It's not popping up. Oh, here we go. So just when you think the PBD show can't get any worse, it does. It never disappoints, PBD, I'll tell you.
Of a beautiful widow.
And Jones voice. So PBD, you know, he glazes Van Jones of all people today. You know, the same Van Jones a couple months ago that said Charlie Kirk deserved what he got because words have consequences. You know, that piece of shit Van Jones, and that's exactly what he is. Patrick Bet-David also today, he comes out on this show and he's pushing Ron DeSantis for president in 2028, who's also bought and paid for by Israel and is just an extension of Trump and everything that's going on now that no American citizens like. If DeSantis gets elected, Rubio or J.D. Vance, it'll be an extension of the same old crap that's going on. But leave it to Patrick Bet-David. You know, Patrick Bet-David is just, the show is finished. So, and then we'll tune into Sosnick. You know, you got to hear Sosnick's excuse why he likes Trump now. The only reason why Sosnick likes Trump now is because Trump is doing everything that Israel said, and it's just typical Sosnick. So let's jump in.
I were exchanging messages last night. Is the following. I'll show you. But go to Jimmy Kimmel first. So this is Jimmy Kimmel a couple days ago. While he's doing his monologue, they shoot this to make it seem like he's the comedian for the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And in it, they use images of Melania, the First Lady, to make it seem like she's in the audience. She's not. This is just B-roll that they're adding.
Yeah.
And here's what he had to say. Go ahead, Rob.
Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
You have a glow like an expected widow?
Yeah.
So
now PBD is pearl clutching also. Isn't it so funny how like all the so-called, these are fake conservatives. These are all Israel firsters. Patrick Bet-David, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, believe it or not, he's Israel first. See, he'll do that whole spiel that he does. You know, he'll rip Trump. They all know that Trump's presidency is over. But in the end, Tucker, Megyn Kelly, and Patrick Bet-David, they'll tell you to vote for 3 candidates. They'll either say DeSantis, they'll either say Rubio, they'll either say J.D. Vance. And guess what? All 3 of those candidates are an extension of Trump and what he's doing for Israel. And if you elect any of them, the same things that are going on now will just continue. They're all frauds, all of them.
So this is
I made a video before the new year. I said all frauds will be exposed in 2026. You can watch the video. And all the frauds are being exposed because of Trump and his behavior. All of them.
Part where I have a problem with things like this. So people came back and they say, oh, yeah, are you okay with the president saying, you know, an entire civilization, Iran? Well, that is the enemy he's calling out. For somebody in the mainstream who has the biggest show that's on TV, like this is the modern, who is the modern day replacement of a Carson, Letterman, or Leno? It's 2 names.
Kimmel
right?
and
Fallon. It's those 2, right? So you get up and you say something like that about the First Lady, nasty, disgusting, ugly. You don't want to see anything like that. I know what does Raskin say, Rob? I think you have a Raskin clip as well. Yep. So to me, you know, while you're watching this stuff.
PBD, you're plugged in. Do you feel that way about Laura Loomer, what she did to Anna Kasparian and CENK UYGUR? Doxing their families, calling for violence against their families? I know you've seen the story. Any pearl clutching going to go on about that, PBD? I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. What Laura Loomer's, she should be in prison. She should be arrested. And we all know why she won't be arrested. You going to address that, PBD?
Did he get punched in the face? Or he has pink eye?
Something's coming.
Okay, something's going. I hope he recovers. But that's go ahead, Rob. Play the clip.
And you have,
Oh my
as
God.
many of your fellow Democrats have used some heated rhetoric against the president. And do you think twice about that?
This weirdo, somebody, you know, shot some milk in his eye. Go figure. Am I surprised? No, not at all.
When something like this happens?
Pink eye? That's what you're calling it.
Just talking about some of the...
I doubt that's pink eye, but anyway.
The fact that he, you know, is terrible for this country and so on and so forth. I understand that that's your democratic right. But overall, do you
I have
a
no
responsibility?
personal problem with Donald Trump at all. I mean, I talk about the policies of this administration, the authoritarianism like we saw on display in Minneapolis. Where
We can play clips and the great.
This guy used to hate Trump. Not even 6 months ago, he despised Trump. He wanted Trump in prison. And you know why they don't want Trump in prison now? Because he's bought and paid for by Israel too. And Trump's doing exactly what Israel wants. So now all of a sudden they're supporting Trump. Go figure. Just like Sosnick.
Greatest hits of what things they've said about the president, which is absolutely nasty. There's a lot of it, okay? But the president said something. He says, look, I study assassinations. He said this right afterwards because he wanted to go on. He's like, I don't want one person to stop the entire thing. I want this thing to continue. But he is being interviewed. This is it. Good find, Rob. He's being interviewed and he says, look, I've studied assassinations. I've studied what happens with this. I study why they do this. It's typically the people. I'll let him address it. Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you, President Trump. There's a report in the New York Post that this assailant assembled his weapon somewhere on site at the hotel. What do you think about that? And I ask respectfully.
You know what I think about it? I think Trump has the most garbage security team in the history. But Trump always says he surrounds himself with suckers and losers. So what else would you expect? The most incompetent Secret Service, detail, FBI, you name it. It's as incompetent as it gets. He put together his weapon on the premises in front of hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, thousands of people walking around a correspondence dinner, and nobody just happened to see what he was doing. Go figure.
Why do you think this keeps happening to you?
Well, you know, I've studied assassinations.
Here we go. Yeah, sure you have.
And I must tell you, the most impactful people, the people that do the most.
The way that he asked the question, it just sounds like it was rehearsed. Like, let me throw him a softball so he can give us the answer. You think Trump really studied assassinations? You think he was reading books about assassinations? Okay, Trump. Yeah, sure.
Take a look at the people, Abraham Lincoln. I mean, you go through the people that have gone through this, where they got them. But the people that do the most, the people that make the big...
Trump really thinks he's doing the most for American citizens right now. Really? Gas price. Trump keeps trying to blame Joe Biden for gas prices. Gas was never this high under Joe Biden, not even one day. The economy, the way that it is, the war in Iran, even Joe Biden, the idiot who's crapping in his pants, wouldn't attack Iran. Everything that Trump is doing right now is hurting America. And he's sitting up there. Yeah, I'm doing a great job. That's why they want to kill me. Yeah, okay, Trump. Yeah, sure.
Biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after.
Right.
They don't go after the ones that don't do much because they like it that way.
Talk about being delusional.
And when you look at the people...
What are you doing, Trump, that's so wonderful for the average American citizen? Let me know, because I'm really confused. $4.30 at the pump for 1 gallon of gas. $7 for a bag of Doritos. $7 for a bag of potatoes. I mean, you're doing a great job, Trump. Great, yeah.
People that have either, whether it was an attempt or a successful attempt, they're very impactful people. Just take a look at the names there, the big names. And I hate to say I'm honored by that, but I've done a lot.
Pause.
We've done a lot.
Pause it, Rob. You see, this is the part where, you know, to have a job like this and make the changes that you want to make that are massive, massive changes, it has to be by a leader that understands.
Trump thinks it's because he's some special being and like he's the second coming of Jesus Christ because he has all the Christian Zionist terrorists telling him that he's Jesus. Anytime you go into politics, whether you're Republican or Democrat, and no matter if you're a good, most of them are not good people, but you could be doing the greatest job in the world. just because you're in one group, there's always going to be people from the other group that hate you and despise you and want you dead. And Trump thinks this is like, it's because he's so special. That's why they want to kill him. That has nothing to do with it. This goes on since the beginning of time. And, you know, Trump, he's the smartest man in the world, but he doesn't know that he has to have like the best security team ever and have snipers around him 24 hours a day. He doesn't understand that, of all people. Yeah, Trump, you're doing just such a great job.
Understands what the risk is. Like, he's accepted the fact that every day someone's trying to kill him. He's accepted the fact that that comes with the territory. And by the way, he didn't move that fast. Now, Van Jones said this, and then Vinny, I'm going to come to you right after this because this is what I want to get you from. Van Jones said this, and he says this may be the biggest concern, and we're going to find out today because the shooter is alive. Ooh. He's not dead.
He's not talking.
Which means he's making a comparison of, imagine the amount of like people going, oh my God, man, Gioni killed the guy, the CEO, and he's alive. So what happens? People are outside celebrating.
He's glazing Van Jones. You know, the same Van Jones not even 6 months ago that was saying that Charlie Kirk deserved what he got because words have consequences. That Van Jones. It's like PBD. Do you think anybody's like? Do you think anybody's paying attention, or are we just all like stupid and believe all your bullshit? Is that it, PBD? Idiot.
And all this stuff.
Get your cover shot on Rolling Stone.
Van Jones took a very, very unique angle
well,
here.
yeah, Van Jones. He's just so unique. He's such a good person, right, PBD? Yeah, I know.
Go ahead, Rob.
Starting to worry about something, though, which is that the shooter survived, which means on
Van Jones he's not redeemable. He's one of the biggest pieces of garbage on all of TV. And guess what? When Democrats had total power, see, when you have power, when you get power and you get money, it really reveals who you are. And when Democrats had all the power, Van Jones every day was on his show and on, you know, liberal news stations, you know, bringing up the rhetoric for violence towards Republicans and conservatives. And Van Jones already showed exactly who he is. He's a racist, hateful piece of garbage, and nothing's ever going to change that. So leave it to PBD to glaze him.
Monday, he's going to court, which means there is a danger that people try to make him some sort of hero.
Yeah, okay, Van Jones.
You watch what happened with Luigi, who shot a CEO to death and somehow became a hero. So they said tonight you saw the worst of America, you saw the best of America. Tonight you definitely saw the best of America. I hope on Monday we don't see the worst again. I just want to say very clearly.
When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, did we see the best from you, Van Jones? Oh, no, you said that words have consequences. Interesting. I didn't know that because you say something that other people don't like, that gives them the right to, you know, assassinate you. Interesting, Van Jones.
This kind of despicable behavior has no place in America. It has no place on the right. It has no place on the left. We don't know if he was there because he wanted to hurt Democrats or Republicans. Both were there. We don't know if he wanted to hurt journalists or politicians. Both were there. This kind of behavior has no place in America.
Pause it right there.
And it is.
Vinny, thoughts?
It's kind of like, and I'm with you 1,000%. When there's a moment, Pat, where they're in there and Stelter, who I don't agree with at all, that I'm actually upset, but I'm happy that he was fired. Like these people created this monster, okay, and then they cry after about the monster that they created, okay. We want to heal, Pat. We want to be better. We want to be better as human beings. You know, this is a Christian nation. We're trying to be positive, and that's a messed up thing to even say because it's happening probably right now. He's in court. It's what, 10 o'clock in the morning. He's probably going to be in court in the next couple minutes, probably. But it's just a sad thing that the Brian Stelters, the Jamie Raskins, the MSNBC, from the Chris Cuomo to every single body for the past 9 years that have been telling us every single day. It's not penetrating us, but a lot of Americans, Pat, that have this brainwashed Trump derangement syndrome where...
Don't forget Van Jones, Vinny. I mean...
It's past just anger and yelling at your family members and I'm not going to go to Thanksgiving because, you know, John is going to be there and he loves Trump. It's where they're getting armed and they're going to arm and they're going to kill. And they're going to kill. So I'm all for, I love the positivity afterwards. Okay, love each other. But it's like, you guys have created this monster. And guess what? How many other monsters are out there that we haven't even seen? You haven't seen anything yet. They're out there. And Trump's going to have to be, by the way, not only President Trump, when he gets out, his family, his family's kids, Barron, everybody is going to have to deal with this forever. And it's because of them. It's because of CNN. It's because of MSNBC. What, MS Now? You want to change your name?
It's not just the news stations, Vinny. There's a lot of people that had it with Trump's behavior. You know, let's talk about the Epstein files. Let's talk about him going against his campaign promises to his people, conning everybody. You don't think that inspires some of these lunatics? Well, then you're lying to yourself.
Like we forgot who you were. It's all these people. But I do think what he's saying is a valid point. They're going to have people falling in love with him. They're in love with this guy. Oh, he's a hero. And who is it going to be coming from? You think any Republicans are going to be over there patting him on the back? This is a left issue that needs to freaking change, Pat. And it's the accountability of saying, I hope you die. I hope you wake. I know I'm all for free speech. But when you call for somebody to die, somebody should go and kill the president. Those people should be like, you're inciting an assassination. You want somebody to go and kill somebody. And it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous.
Adam. Look, in their minds, Trump is the enemy.
Leave it to Sosnick. You're going to love this take. You know, I'll save the best for last. Just a thought. He's
so, you know, you said a second ago about, you know, what Trump said about killing a civilization, which obviously was hyperbolic and not true, but they're the enemy. It was
hyperbolic. You don't think Trump meant it? You don't think Trump meant that, Sosnick? He was trying to get his hands on the nuclear codes. And the general told him no, and then he fired the general. Sosnick, do you ever know what you're talking about? Ever? No.
I believe that there's a massive faction on the left and somehow on the right now that doesn't view China as the enemy, that doesn't view Russia as the enemy, or even Iran as the enemy. There's a singular enemy, and his name is Donald Trump. Imagine that.
You know what? The one part you left out, Sosnick, the reason why they're looking at Trump like that is because they know Trump's being controlled by Israel, Sosnick. They know that Trump's being controlled by a foreign country in the Middle East, Sosnick. But, you know, you just conveniently leave that part out, right? You act like Trump's keeping all of his campaign promises and his people are just turning on him. That's the way Sosnick is turning this into. Go figure.
You're an American, you're a citizen of the country, and your number one enemy is Donald Trump. I don't think we can understate this even more. How do I have so much conviction? How do I know that this to be true? Because TDS is a real thing, and I had it. Have you ever had TDS?
He had Trump derangement syndrome. You know why? Because Trump was not going to bomb Iran, and he was been saying it for, you know, for a very long time that he wasn't going to do it. He was gonna get us out of wars, and that's why all the never Trumpers hated him. That's why Ben Shapiro hated him. That's why Mark Levin hated him. That's why Sosnick hated him. And you know why they all love him now? Because Trump is expanding Israel's borders. They're bombing Lebanon, Israel. They're bombing Iran with the help of the American military. So Sosnick, now he loves Trump, but he thinks you're not paying attention. That's the problem with this idiot.
Never.
You ever had that, Pat? No. You ever had that? For 4 years.
Pat's like, he turned, you know, because he knows he's just full of shit. Tom is like, the steam is coming out of his head because everybody on the whole podcast knows that Adam is full of shit, but they don't want to call him. For some reason, he gets a pass all the time. So now Sosnick is blaming all the media stations for his Trump derangement syndrome. And that's not why he had Trump derangement syndrome. Because Trump was campaigning as the president of peace, and that wouldn't have been able to expand Israel's borders. And that's why all the never Trumpers, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, and Sosnick hated Trump's guts. And now that he's doing everything that Israel wants, they all love him.
During his first term, when I watched MSNBC and Morning Joe and CNN, I watched a whole onslaught of news. I was like, this guy's a Russian asset and he's trying to ruin the country and he can be bought and paid, all that. Thank God I've snapped out of it. I mean, do you know anyone else who despises?
There's not an honest bone in this piece of garbage's body. He's just a lying, manipulative piece of garbage. He's totally destroyed PBD's credibility. And the whole cast right now, they all know that he's lying and nobody will say a word. Well, Vinny tries to.
Trump and now absolutely admires him.
No, but can I ask you one question?
Hold on, but let me just finish this.
So I don't forget.
It's something that needs to be studied and cannot just be dismissed. Why? These people view Trump as the enemy. And here's what happens. Let's use Jimmy Kimmel as an example. Not only is he condoning killing the president, making a joke out of it, saying, Melania, you have the glow of a beautiful widow. They're promoting it. They're putting it on TV saying, guys, they're inserting the laugh track and saying, this is hilarious, guys. And don't tell me that a large percentage of the country would not celebrate if Trump got shot. Because I'll give you Exhibit A, Charlie Kirk, while they're dancing on his grave. Or I'll give you Exhibit B, how many people, oh, they wish they got him in the ear. I wish they would have got him. So don't tell me there's a huge population in this country that wouldn't be gleeful if Trump got shot.
Yeah.
And that to me is this.
Got bad news for you, Sosnick. If Trump wasn't doing what Israel wanted, you'd be one of those people. So would Ben Shapiro. So would Mark Levin. So just give it a rest. Great acting job today. It's like bad porn acting, but whatever.
Can I ask him one question? And do you remember, and do this really fast, I know he wants Tom to say his piece. What's the moment? Do you remember the moment? Because you went from, I hate him, Russia, everything. What was the moment? Do you remember the moment where you went, oh my God, I was, what the hell? Like there had to be a moment where you switched. What was it?
Here, I'll tell you, when Trump started to just let Israel control him, and Israel, once Trump submitted to Israel and did everything that they wanted, that's when Adam started loving him. But let's hear Sosnick's answer.
I never hated Trump. I don't use that word. Pat knows. I don't like the things. But I think COVID was, I think everybody had to wake up during COVID. Everybody. We had to realize, what is this true? Do we need to wear a mask? Do we need to get a jab? What's going on?
Is that what it is, Sosnick? The acting right now. It's just, wow. Did you go to acting school for this?
Who do we trust? Who do we not trust? And then it all just unraveled. And then there was no singular moment. But if you just look at what was going on during the Biden administration, what did he do that you could say, that's my guy?
Vinny, I will tell you from the outside, okay? Because Adam's not the only guy. You know, he wants to think he's the only guy. Millions.
PBD's nauseous right now. He's just like, I gotta listen to this shit again. I need Pepto-Bismol.
Podcast.
On this podcast, fine, but millions. Rob was a guy. You know, and I just, Rob doesn't say it. Rob didn't come here be in full agreement with me politically. Are you kidding me? No. A lot of people, as you're going through it, you know, and by the way, I remember also there were some guys that had.
Yeah, PBD, keep hiding the fact that Sosnick, Sosnick got rid of his Trump derangement syndrome because now Trump is owned by Israel. And that's the only reason why he changed his opinion. But hey, PBD, you're the smartest guy in the planet, but you just can't seem to figure that one out.
Left him that had gone to DeSantis. They're like, DeSantis is the guy, which, by the way, the market's going to be very confused with me, because do not be surprised if in 2028 I'm, a guy that wants to see DeSantis make the next move. And I got a couple guys.
You cannot be America first and be for Ron DeSantis. You can't, because Ron DeSantis is bought and paid for by Israel too. And look what's happening in Florida right now. They're getting rid of freedom of speech, where if you even criticize Israel in a joke, they're arresting you with felony charges. That's what Ron DeSantis stands for. But leave it to PBD.
I actually think I just didn't want DeSantis in 24. But you know what it is? Here's a part that I want everybody to be thinking about. My dad would say something. He says, Pat, when you were going through trouble.
All right, let me move on from this. You get the point. So the PBD show, it never disappoints lately. I'll tell you. Just doesn't. Last thing I wanted to get into today, let me find it. Hold on. Sean Hannity. Hold on. Sean Hannity, he went on the PBD show a couple weeks ago, and he said he can't figure out why nobody watches Fox News anymore, and doesn't understand why nobody watches corporate media. And that's because you're bought and paid for by Israel too, Sean, and we all know it. So Sean Hannity, he's trying to look like he's trying to reinvent himself with a podcast, and like he's not connected to Fox News now, and he's doing his own thing, and he's free. That's all garbage. Sean Hannity and his handlers, they think, if he starts his own podcast, somehow, some way, that'll make the viewers come back and watch him and give him more credibility. And who does he have on today? One of his, first guests, Dan Bongino. I call him Dan Slumgino, but let's get into the video. I'm not going to play the whole thing, just a couple minutes.
I'm going to get to how misunderstood you were when you were.
Sean Hannity is one of the biggest pieces of garbage in all of media. He's just he's looked into the camera for 40 years and lied and lied and lied, and he's put America last for 30, 40 years, and that's exactly why the country is the way it is now. He's one of the biggest reasons, lying and manipulating his audience. Sean Hannity is not a good person.
FBI director.
So we walked into this total shit show, this Biden mess, illegals everywhere. The FBI focused on locking up Donald Trump and not bad guys.
My audience is going to really be happy you're back on the air. They're going to want to know a little bit of the inside story.
Hannity's trying to look like he's in a cabin somewhere in a room. Meanwhile, this is just another room in the Fox News headquarters, and it's just such a joke. We're gonna trick the audience. We're gonna make it look like Hannity's not connected to Fox News anymore, and now he could talk freely. Yeah, sure, Sean.
And you said to me, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that don't want me back on the air.
Oh yeah. And then you had this other FBI, which was populated with, to say, unfortunately, snakes as being nice. And here's the problem, Sean. It wasn't always obvious which FBI they were in. I can't only do one thing. I can't be, jack of all trades, master of none. I have to be master of all trades, jack of none, because I can't screw any of these things up.
Slum Gino says he can't screw any of these things up. Oh, really? Interesting. You told us Epstein killed himself. There are no Epstein files. You covered up the biggest pedo ring in history. You took $6 million from AIPAC, but hey, you can't mess it up, right, Slum Gino?
There are some shows that I'm just excited to do, and this is one of them. Why? Because he's one of my dearest friends, somebody I have such deep, profound respect for. One of the most loyal guys you'll ever meet. You know him, former deputy FBI director, great, incredible host in his own right. You know him well from my shows. Dan Bongino.
Sean.
Thanks for hanging out with us, brother.
That's great.
You want to play pool later or what?
I'm terrible at pool. And it's crazy because my family owned a bar growing up. And you would think I'd be better at this whole, I'm good at Joker poker. That game, that's about it. But pool,
you don't play pool?
No, I'm terrible. I used to get smoked in the family bar.
I'm horrible at the dart game. I can't hit that.
Darts? I'm no, but only Joker poker. My mother used to let me play Joker poker in the bar. That's back then when they'd give you money if you won, and then we found out it was illegal.
Lindsey Graham, you and
Bongino, your family knew it was illegal from day. Just more lies from. He's even lying about the poker Joker machines in his family's bar. Right. He's from New York. Everybody knows it's illegal. So just stop, Slum Gino.
And me, we all have that in common. I mean, I was tending bar at 17, but I was washing dishes at 12 till 2 in the morning.
I grew up in a bar. Remember Wise potato chips?
Oh,
they were 25 cents a bag.
You can still get them.
And we owned this bar at 64th Place in Myrtle. Gibby was my grandfather's nickname. And after school, I'd bring some of the kids and I'd be like, hey, watch, this is cool. And the bartender's name was Vinny. I'd be like, hey, Vinny, give my friends free potato chips. They thought it was like the coolest thing.
Yeah.
That's when the neighborhood bar, guys used to come in the morning before work, have like a beer and an egg sandwich, and then they'd show up again after work.
Back then, there was a Boilermaker. It was a beer and a shot.
A beer. And you know what? No one was shooting up schools and stuff. It was there was a sense of neighborhood camaraderie.
What does having a shot and a beer before work have to do with shooting up schools? It's just, okay, all right, Dan.
Like everybody knew each other. Like, oh yeah, that's Tony from the temple down the block, and that's Joey from the church, and that's
everybody knew each other.
Yeah.
All right. You gave this.
Everybody knew each other. Okay, let's turn the page. Let's get off this topic. Just typical Hannity. It's like talking to. It's like, I think it's like a rubber suit. Him and Tucker have the same thing going on. It's like they unzip it and then like a reptilian comes out of the suit that they're wearing.
The scariest warning I've ever read, and you put up a truth. No, it was an X post. I'm going to get to that in the course of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to how misunderstood you were when you were deputy FBI director. And there's a whole story. I'll tell this audience about a private conversation we had and how dumb people are. And that gets to maybe where we should start. When you told me, let's be blunt, when you were going in, Sean, I'm in for a year. I'm giving up a very successful career, radio talk shows, podcast, you're kicking ass, you're a business guy, you're doing great. You gave up a lot, but you said to me at the time, I'm probably 1 year and out. I just want to go in, serve, help as best I can. And
that's a total lie. I doubt, I would bet everything I had that Bongino, Hannity wants you to believe that before Bongino started in FBI, he told him, I'm only going to be there for a year, then I'm out. Yeah, sure he did, Sean. Sure, Sean. Right, I'm sure that happened.
And get things on the right track. True?
Yeah, I was pretty clear with Cash and them from the start that I would.
Whether Hannity's on Fox News or hanging out with Sean, which is just an extension of Fox News, he's lying. They're trying to fix Slum Gino's credibility right here.
I used to tell him the line, I'll flip the calendar for you. I'll come in, I'll get to January, and we'll get all this done. I knew what we had to do, whether it was training reforms, we had to get rid of a lot of bad apples, reorienting the FBI back to violent crime. Like I had a mission going in there. So I didn't go in there and, think of it as we went along. I went in there with a notebook full of things I knew we had to do to fix it. But yeah, it was always going to be like flip the calendar was the line. So it was kind of weird when I left to hear a lot of this like nonsense conspiracy theory stuff. Like, I saw this article. This is how crazy it is. There's an article in The Root, which is some left-leaning outlet. And it says something like people who've turned on Trump since they left. And it said, Dan Bongino. I said, really? I'm reading the article. This is fascinating. I love the president. And I'm reading, and he left, and there's like these 10 different reasons, and none of it's actually true. I left because I was going to flip the calendar and then, when we got the pipe bomb case in December, which was kind of like I had this list of things I wanted to get done. We had kind of wrapped a lot of that up, and then,
was the Epstein case in those files, was that on the list of things you wanted to get done? Was Epstein's suicide on the list of things you wanted to get done? Oh, no, nothing to see there, right, Bongino?
I called the president, who's always the best, and he said, because he's just such a great guy, and he said, yeah, I know, Dan, January. He said, I want to be the first guest on your show. And I got to tell you, I thought he was kidding about that.
It's real.
And then February, so a month goes by, I'm getting my show back together, and we get a call from his office, and they're like, no, he was serious. He really wants to be the first guest on the show.
He meant it.
He's just the best, man. I love him.
Well, you just saw him at UFC. What'd you guys speak for 25 minutes?
Oh, it was the best. So I was leaving, and he's obviously, he sits ring side. Like, matter of fact, he sits like in the ring, like next to Joe Rogan. Yeah. So I'm in row 2 back there. Right in front of me is Zach Brown, a country singer, and I'm sitting next to Vanilla Ice, Rob.
He's a good guy.
Oh, the nicest guy. Yeah. Could not have been. And then they're playing like Ice Ice Baby. We're chatting. So I had seen him. He had shaken my hand, and we just had and I was talking to Rubio a little bit. He was in the front row, and Scavino. And as I'm getting ready to leave, I was going to go shake his hand to say goodbye. And this, not Secret Service, this security guy's like, no, you can't go through here. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go around the other side. And the Secret Service guys let me through. So we chatted for, a good 20 minutes. And he's just like, he's the best, man.
You know, it was funny because when you announced that you were going to be going back to work, I called you and the first thing I'm like, yes, you got to do radio. You got to do TV. My audience is going to really be happy you're back on the air. They're going to want to know a little bit of the inside story. And you said to me, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that don't want me back on the air.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you actually fulfilled that promise.
Man, I got to tell you, I was really disappointed. I mean, I've been in the business now, thanks to you. And you're funny. Before the show, I'm like, listen, you're like, thanks for doing this. I said to folks, I said to him, I go, Sean, don't thank me. Like, I wouldn't be here without you. You can be humble all you want, doesn't matter. You and Levin, I have no career. No. You let me guest host your show when I was like Joey Bag of Donuts and no one knew me from that.
Joey Bag of Donuts?
Yeah. So, you've been a friend for decades now. And I've known you, since 2011 when I started running. You let me come on as a candidate when nobody knew who I was. I mean, you introduced me to the conservative world. And you have never given me bad advice. You've never not returned a phone call, not returned a text. Levin's the same way.
Yeah.
The most loyal friends I've had. I'm going to tell you, like, honestly, genuinely, candidly stunned that the second I left, my friend Brendan Dilley put out this tweet, and he goes, watch. He goes, give it a week and people are going to turn on Bongino who want his audience. And I couldn't believe it. We were gone a week and they're like, why didn't you arrest?
You really think that's the reason why people turned on you, Bongino? Oh my God. He's just too much. No, the big elephant in the room. It's not the Epstein files, huh? Because I read the comments on your show, and they just destroy you about the Epstein files and Jeffrey Epstein's. Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, according to Bongino.
This guy, that guy. Brother, I didn't even swear in yet. Like, it took me like 3 weeks to get the whole process going, and I couldn't believe it.
My favorite was reading your CIA operative.
CIA.
That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, this guy's an inside deep. I was like, what kind of bullshit is this? Like, how quickly people turned, and it was so disingenuous. And the thing about being on the inside is, you talk to the boss a lot. Is when you're on the inside, it's not about you. It's about the president. It's about the administration. So you can't defend yourself. And I got to tell you, man, I was like champing at the bit there. I could not wait to get back and be like, I'm just going to blast these.
I'm going to get to that because I have a quote of yours when people say you changed. I'm like, that is such bullshit. I have known you too long.
Yeah.
And when there were people in the government that I trusted, I've known Cash a long time. I've known you forever.
Yeah.
You are one of the most loyal friends you could ever want to have in life. And, you built your success, and it's got to be frustrating. Here's part of the problem. A lot of people are jealous of you. Think about it. You're successful. You come back on the air, boom, skyrocket right out of the box. When you were coming back on the air, I called you got to do radio, got to do TV, all of this. Here's the truth, though, and tell me if I'm wrong. We work with a lot of assholes, a lot of jackasses.
Is that what it is, Sean? Everybody's just jealous of Bongino? Is that what it is? More like Bongino on his show every day would run, when I'm, we're going to take down the deep state. And he wrote a book about the deep state and pedophilia, and he's going to take them all down. And then he gets in there, he takes $6 million from AIPAC and then just totally just looks away and turns his back on his base, just like Trump did. And now we're just all jealous of him, right, Hannity? Great. Yeah, okay.
And
great take.
I think some have no core in terms of, or integrity in terms of what they're going to say, what they're willing to say for a click to hit the algorithm to increase viewership, listenership, whatever it happens to be, because they want the money. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. And the thing is, like, I had always said to people, the Bongino rule, which was like, don't be first, be right. Give a story 72 hours or so to brew before you not speak about it, but form a final opinion. Let the facts come out. And, I that old line, is it Heraclitus who said it, that, man never steps in the same river twice. It's not the same man. It's not the same river. Like, if you don't, in fact, change and process new information and form different outputs, like, what does that say about you? I went in there and saw things I had not seen before. I had experience in government, but not at that level. I was a Secret Service agent. I was very proud of that. I was a candidate for office. However, when you go in at a principal and deputy level, you're read into everything and you see things. Some of the stuff I saw had confirmed some of my priors, like the tweet you're going to mention. Matter of fact, made it worse. That tweet where I was shocked to the core. I thought I knew Russiagate. I walked in there, and whenever I came in priors, it was like 10x worse. But then there were other things I had prior assumptions about, where I saw some of the information, and it wasn't what we thought it was. And what would you prefer? I just lie to you? That was always confusing to me. Like, we elected our people to go in there and get a job done. Trump picks the Avengers, President Trump. He picks like the team of the Avengers to go in there. You want us to go in there and just smoke you? I don't understand. And I appreciated that when I came back, that my audience was there, and there in spades. They came back and they were like, we're with you. This is exactly what we wanted, and we appreciate you coming back.
What a lot of people don't seem to understand, my success or failure is not predicated on anyone else's success or failure.
It's not zero sum.
It's not. It's not a zero-sum game.
And I never did that. I half of the guys who waited for me to go inside, where there's, you can't talk. You're not talking for yourself. You're talking for
Hannity. Your success is dictated on the network that you work for. You're looking into the camera every day, lying and manipulating, and you're one of the biggest reasons why America is in the state that it is. Your success is dictated on that you have an agreement with your boss that you're going to just look into the camera and lie and act like a good person for the last 30, 40 years. That's why you have success, Hannity. Because if you were to tell the truth, you would have lasted probably 6 months at Fox News. No, I give it 90 days.
The administration. Half of the guys who did that used to, I mean, I have emails from these guys. I don't put them out there because I'm not an asshole, but hey, Dan, I'd love to come on your show. I got a new book coming out. Can you be a guest? One of these two jokers who were like taking pot shots at me. I have lists of DMs 3 weeks long. Man, what do we got to do to get you on the show? And then the second I can't believe this guy is in the FBI. It was like such bullshit. It's so phony. You know, and that stuff. I've been doing this a long time. I've had my podcast for over 10 years now. We've been at the top of the game. We never.
Bongino, stop calling other people phony because you're like the top 3 biggest frauds ever. So just stop.
Bullshit people. We don't ride waves. We just speak the truth. And if you do that, you're always going to have it. You're going to be a magnet for an audience every time.
One of the hard.
Bongino, you speak the truth. Okay. Yeah. You and Hannity think you speak the truth. That's a good one. Right. It should hang out with Sean Hannity. It should just be called Hang Out in Another Room of Fox News. That's what the show should be called.
Calls I ever had with you was not long after you went in, and I remember where I was. I was not in the country, and I was with my family, and we had just arrived at a restaurant for dinner, and I got a call from you, or I called you, one or the other, I don't remember, and I was out there for like 45 minutes to an hour. We were talking. I'd never heard you so pissed off.
Oh God,
This was frustrating for me, for you, if that makes any sense. And I'll tell you why, is because you guys inherited over 12 million unvetted illegal immigrants from over 200 countries, known terrorists, murderers, rapists, child molesters, other violent criminals, cartel members, gang members. Now,
well, I have a question for you, Hannity. I mean, let's just say that number's true, 12 million. Trump has only deported about 700,000 people. And that's what Trump ran on, getting all of these people that you're mentioning out of here. So what is Trump actually doing? Are you going to address it? What did Bongino actually do about it? Are you going to address it? They did absolutely nothing about it. And Trump has no plans to do anything about it. See, this is just another way that Trump turned his back on his voting base, because this is what he ran on, getting rid of all these people.
As everyone's saying, why isn't the FBI getting to the bottom of this? Meanwhile, you're there like a month, maybe at that point.
Yeah.
And why aren't they focused on this? They promised X, Y, or Z. And I'm like, they're gulping water right now. I mean, what do you think? They're not trying? They're not working?
Yeah. That was,
you were
Hannity, really? Tampon Timmy and Jacob Fry, they told Trump to get effing lost, and they put up a little bit of a fight in Minneapolis. And Trump put his tail between his legs and decided to just quit deportations altogether because he has better things to do, starting a war in Iran for his boss, Benjamin Netanyahu. Tampon Timmy Walls told Trump, get effing lost, and Trump ran away like a coward. It's just like, Hannity, you're a complete joke.
Frustrated, and rightly so.
I know. I remember the call well. I'm pretty sure I called you. Here's why. So you walk in there, and to everyone listening, I love the job. The experience was great. My biggest mistake was going on Fox and Friends, and Lawrence Jones just asked.
He loved the job. I saw him on the news crying that he had to work till 6 p.m. every day, and he missed his wife, and he needs to leave immediately. Look at this face. That's the eyes of a liar.
A question about, well, what's the transition
like?
And
I'm his best friend. I can't trust LJ.
I love LJ. It was a great question. There was nothing wrong with the question. The mistake was I answered it.
You know what cracks me up about a lot of these, whatever they are, broadcasters or YouTubers, especially that have this, that type of audience. They really think that they could just lie continuously, and they think that nobody's paying attention. Like, they don't think that anybody paid attention to what they said like a week ago, a month ago, forget 6 months ago. But they think like nobody's paying attention and nobody could piece it together what they're actually up to and what they're doing.
And honestly, for the first, I probably should have just lied about it. He asked me on Fox and Friends, he's like, man, what's the transition like going from that to this? I'd only been on the job a month. And I said, and I was thinking of my apartment, not my office on the weekends, because my wife couldn't come up right away. I've got a young daughter. I've got this health issue with my mother-in-law. It's pretty significant. So my wife can't travel as much. So I was like, I sit and stare I was talking about the four walls of my apartment, not the office. I don't sit in the office and stare at the walls all day. Right. And it was just such a bad answer. And I got to tell you, like, I have very few regrets in my life. life in the media space. Like I live by the, no news is bad news, the Gary Gnu. But
let it go.
But that one really stung because people were like, "Oh, he's complaining about." I was not complaining about the job. I was complaining about being apart from my wife. The job was an amazing experience. But getting to your point, like this is not a complaint. I signed up for this, but we walked into a mess. You had like level A problems, which were like, you had to fix this right away or something's going to go boom. Then you had level B and level C. D, E, and F got handled by someone else and people out in the field and up into the DAD level. If it made it to your desk, it was like an A, B, or C problem, and C is a pretty big deal. But the problem is, as you're dealing with those problems every day in the FBI, there were two FBIs trying to help you solve the A, B, and C problems, and that's FBI 1 and FBI 2. Like there's two FBI? Yes, there were two FBIs. There was the FBI of like bust your ass, VCAC agents, violent crimes against children, white collar agents, violent crime fugitive task force. And some of these guys, I was just honored to be in the room. They were like, we have this TFO, task force officer down in Miami. This guy, his first name's Joe, I won't say his last name. This guy's been on the job 38 years. You know how many violent criminals are off the street because of this guy and the agents he works with? I mean, he's a TFO, but the agents were like that too. And then you had this other FBI, which was populated with, to say, unfortunately, snakes as being nice. And here's the problem, Sean. It wasn't always obvious which FBI they were in. So you're trying to solve like a level A problem, which has like no solution. There's a shitty solution and a shittier one. And I got to tell you, it's almost like a coin toss because either way, someone's going to get hurt. Okay. And you're trying to figure this out and you're asking someone for advice. You've only been there a couple weeks and you don't know if that person is part of the.
Seems like Bongino has an excuse for everything. Remember when he got on TV sitting next to Kash Patel and he said that Epstein killed himself? I seen the file. I seen the videotape. There's nothing to see there. There's no files. What's your excuse for that, Bongino, other than you took $6 million from AIPAC?
Good FBI or the bad FBI. So it took Kash and I both, and even people we had relied on the outside who knew the FBI well, sometimes they would get it wrong too. It happened a couple times where they'd say, oh, you can trust John Smith.
Right.
And you trust John Smith. And then a week later, you'd see like a leak in the media and you'd be like, I'm pretty sure that came from John Smith. So I would start like messing with people, like I would do these things. Like I told this, a report leaked out in the media one day. I knew exactly where it came from because I made it up. It was a total lie. It was just an innocuous story. It wasn't about.
So you set somebody up.
I set somebody up. It was about like my schedule after I was going to leave work. I'm like, yeah, I'm going out to, I forget what I said, but I'm going out to like Fleming's Steakhouse tonight.
Right.
I wasn't going out to Fleming's. I was traveling back to Florida. I knew I was the only, and I confronted him on it. Yeah, it leaked. I knew it was. Like and so it was like we would play this, we'd had to play this little game. So we walked into this total shit show, this Biden mess, illegals everywhere. The FBI focused on locking up Donald Trump and not bad guys. I had one agent. This guy was part of the bad FBI. And I'm sitting in this big director's conference room, like 150 seats in there.
I'm glad you're laughing now.
Rubio
said that year.
Hannity, do you really think that you could fix Bongino's credibility with this stupid interview where Bongino is just making excuse after excuse after excuse?
Rubio, I'm talking to the secretary, and he comes up and he goes, man, you look really happy now. No, I said, no, I miss it. And I said, you're doing a great job, by the way. And
he's great, right?
Oh, the best. But
Hannity, are you going to ask him about the $6 million he took from AIPAC? Or let me guess, that's too tough of a question.
We're sitting there, and I said, hey, man, why aren't we locking up more violent criminals? With the FBI, I said, the end game of terrorists and violent criminals is the same, to get you dead quick. I said the means by which they get there may be different in the ideology and the motive. One may be greed and drugs. One is Islamo-radicalism. But either way, you're dead. I want us back in the violent crime business. I had one of these guys tell me, no joke. He's like, well, we don't really do that because it's risky. I said, wait, did you just say that out loud? I said, that's not the little voice in your head, right? You just said that out loud. It's risky. I said, what's risky? Living in one of these crack-infested neighborhoods with, drug slingers and crack runners and meth runners where the kids are dying, the kids are getting killed. I said, that's freaking risky. I said, don't ever tell me that again. I said, I'm sorry, but come back. I brought my chief of staff in, who was an outsider. He was a Secret Service agent with me. Great guy. I brought him in. And we started this whole violent crime task force and we walked into the president. We sold him on the idea of reorienting the FBI back to violent crime. And look what happened. The lowest homicide rate in U.S. history.
As of this taping, 8 of the 10 most wanted FBI people caught. what was it, a 40% increase in, reduction or arrests of murderers and
Well, Hannity, the number one criminal in the world is Jeffrey Epstein, and everybody all of Trump's voting base wanted to know exactly what happened to him. We all wanted to know who was on the Epstein list. We all wanted to know the elites involved. It's not that we don't care about these other criminals, but they were kind of like on the back burner. But I love how Hannity's going to glaze Bongino, and he's not going to mention Epstein at all, ever. And we all know that. So just another show. It's just another show that Sean Hannity, he pretends to be a good person, and this is why he has zero credibility.
violent criminals.
I think we had over 60,000.
Crazy.
That it was the lowest.
Shattered every record.
The lowest homicide rate ever recorded.
Yeah.
And it was the lowest crime rate ever recorded. I was talking to a reporter from a left-wing outlet the other day, which I don't do often.
Why would you talk to any left-wing
outlet? I know. But ironically, because I only talked to him because he wrote a piece that was unbelievably, not crazy, So I was chatting with him.
Think of that standard. Unbelievably not crazy.
Right, but that's why I generally don't discuss this stuff. But I was kind of curious as to why they wrote this, semi-fair story. And he said, I'm really interested in this violent crime thing. He goes, I get these, a lot.
Bongino, I want to know, how did you come up with the conclusion that Epstein definitely hung himself and there was no more files? I'm curious. How did you come up with that conclusion? I mean, Hannity, you going to ask him the tough question?
These outlets are reporting it was luck, or Biden did it, or it wasn't President Trump, or whatever. But he said, I'm really curious as to how you guys did it. That can't be an accident. That the crime rate was the lowest in U.S. history, and not only that, but by a moonshot. The homicide rate was something like 20% lower than the lowest rate ever recorded. And I said, we just did a couple really simple things, before the old FBI, in order for us to go and help, say, Deputy Sean Hannity down here in Florida, go get a bad guy on a state murder warrant, you had to jump through all these hoops. So these sheriff's departments would call us for help, and you'd have to meet this criteria. I said, that's bullshit. We're wiping all of that out. These UFAP warrants, unlawful flight against prosecution. Did the guy call someone out of state somewhere? Good. That looks like he was trying to flee prosecution. Right. I said, get on that. So we expanded from, 10 or 15 criteria, whatever it was, to, 10x that, and enabled our guys to go into police departments and go get shitheads off the street. And look what happened. No shocker. When you get shitheads off the street, shitheads don't do bad stuff. And the crime rate, I'm not telling you like it's Einstein, Stephen Hawking stuff.
So you spent 4 years in the NYPD. You were, 12 years Secret Service.
Yeah.
And this is the most screwed up thing ever. So Muriel Bowser, Democrat, D.C. mayor, actually embraces Donald Trump deploying agents in her city. Murder rate goes down 70%.
Right.
Crazy drop. People in D.C., I've been there. It's a totally different city. It's cleaned up. Look at Chicago. On my TV show since 2009, this is Obama's home city. He's the president of our country. And, every weekend you can predict 25.
Here's a question for Slum Gino. The FBI investigates fraud. They investigate all types of crime. How come you didn't go after Tampon Timmy Walls? How come you didn't go after Ilhan Omar? How come you didn't go after Brandon Johnson? He's on the take. Yeah, I mean, there's so many people that are into corruption and, abusing their power. And Bongino did absolutely nothing about it. Never mind Epstein.
28 on a light weekend, 15 people shot, 8 of them shot and killed. Nobody ever lifts a finger. Did you ever think in your lifetime, because you've dedicated a lot of your life to law enforcement, that defund, dismantle, no bail, reimagine the police? I'm like, what? Send in the social workers?
Yeah. Well, the great part about running the FBI with President Trump. So President Trump early on was really focused on Memphis, him and Cash, because it was one of the most violent, small cities in America. So that's where we tested this whole model on UFAP warrants and elsewhere. But President Trump was obsessed with D.C. Not because there were any votes there. President Trump's going to win Washington, D.C. It's like 95% Democrat. He sees it every day and problems bother him. He is a fixer. And he just hated it. He'd drive around the city and he's like, why are there all, homeless people sleeping on the...
Trump is a fixer. As I pay $4.30 a gallon. As a bag of potatoes is $7. Property tax through the roof and car insurance through the roof, housing through the roof. But according to Slum Gino, Trump is a fixer. Yeah, he's doing a great job.
The sidewalk. Why is that guy getting robbed? And he just said, guys, just freaking go for it. And the beautiful part about being the deputy is Cash is managing the whole place. So he's dealing with the White House, the budget, OMB with Dan Bishop at the time and Russ. He's dealing with, Rubio and Ratcliffe. The operational day-to-day, and Cash would say it's not like a flex, it's just true, was really me and the ADD, the Associate Deputy Director. Right. We would run everything. So Cash was very, very hands-off on that. He was a big vision guy. President says he wants crime crushed. Dan, how are we going to do it? I pitched him UFAP warrants, broken windows policing, and what I call the water balloon effect with agents, where we would squeeze a water balloon in one place, push agents here, and then when a crime got crushed, we would squeeze them back to another spot. And we wind up taking a regional approach with assets too. Things like our WIT trucks and things like that, like all of these Cellbrights, these special devices we have that locals don't have. We would pool them in regions as well and spool them out, like from New York City to Long Island, for example, like stuff we really had.
Cellbright, explain what that is.
Well, we have a lot of equipment that we can, get into and phones and things like that. But a lot of the locals don't have this
If
stuff.
somebody thinks
Without warrants. See, what he's trying to tell you is, we can get into people's phones and computers because, Trump with his FISA, that they don't have to get warrants anymore and they could just spy on everybody and just pick up random criminals. But hey, let's turn the topic, Hannity.
that their phone
Let's change the topic real quick.
is erased, or let's say they don't have a cloud, you can retrieve it. When I learned that, I was stunned.
Yeah, we have a lot of, that's what worries.
Am I not allowed to talk about that? You gave me a bad look there.
No, I don't.
We talked about it during the Nancy Guthrie case.
I know, and I couldn't believe someone, let out that technology, because that was something this other stuff is already out there. People know about it. It's kind of gotten out there, but we have a lot of tools.
That is insane. I mean, it should be gone.
Sean, I've been out of law enforcement a long time. I left the Secret Service 2011 to run for office. So although I kept contact with my law enforcement friends, I've been out a bit. So when I come in, not only are we dealing with A, B, and C problems with FBI 1 or 2, but the technology gap for me was, and I didn't go in there with any kind of an ego at all. And that's why, if you'll notice, you never see any leaks because there's no leaks I did not walk in there and try to be like Mr. Badass Tough Guy with the Popeye forearms. I was very humble with the guys and said, listen, I'm here because the president got elected and there's new leadership in charge. If you don't like it, there's the door. However, we are going to work together. I'm going to respect you. You're going to respect me. And out of respect for you, I'm going to tell you, you guys know a lot of things about cyber and the equipment space and like Cellbright and others that I don't know. So I need to get briefed in on this stuff. So I spent like the first month going through the tech stuff. But that's how, that's getting back to your original.
The tech stuff, translation, they don't need a warrant to go through your emails, computer, phone, and they can just do whatever they want, acting like the Gestapo, and Trump signed off on it. That's what happened.
Question. The best part about being the deputy at the FBI was I don't answer to Brandon Johnson.
Pretty much Bongino and Trump, they tore the Constitution to shreds, just like Ron DeSantis is doing in Florida.
I have to work with Brandon Johnson. Now that I'm out, I can say this different though. I don't give a shit what Brandon Johnson thinks. I told Doug, the SAC in charge of Chicago, hey, Doug, I don't give a shit what the mayor tells you. I don't work for him. Find a federal charge and go lock these guys up. The CPD was great, by the way. Like, they would help us. They're not going to strand us out there. So was the NYPD. Jessica Tisch was fantastic. She worked with us on a bunch of stuff. But when we did that Operation Open Air drug market up in New York where we cleaned it up, I called the commissioner and I gave her a heads up, and she couldn't have been more cooperative. But they were in that mayor-elect period, Mamdani, and Mamdani's talking about all this anti-police crap. And I told my boss up there, the ADIC, the assistant director in charge, I said, I don't give a shit what Mamdani says. You clean up that drug market on your own. And we did.
Too bad you weren't a tough guy like this when it came to the Epstein files and the Epstein tape, the altered tape that's missing 2 minutes when Epstein was murdered or, wheeled out of his cell so he can go live in Israel. But hey, Bongino, just keep doing the tough guy thing.
I didn't give a damn.
Isn't it the most messed up thing? I mean, you have all these criminal illegals. We're trying to get rid of them.
All right, I'm going to end it with that. Listen, the point being is, this hangout with Sean Hannity, they're, Fox News, they know nobody's watching them anymore. The ratings are down. So they think, we're just going to make this literally this hangout with Hannity. It's probably literally in the room next door. Like, you open a door and then there's the Fox News network right there. So this is their way of trying to regain the airwaves. It's just total nonsense. And The lying, the gaslighting, it still continues. Hannity doesn't have an honest bone in his body. Excuse me, neither does Slum Gino. Hey, Sean, make sure you ask Slum Gino why he took $6 million from AIPAC, but you'll never do that. Let me end it with that. I mean, Sean Hannity, it's not going to get any better for him. And he's always going to have his loyal followers because they're just brainwashed that he's a good person. But corporate media is completely finished. And one of the biggest reasons why the United States of America is in the shape that it's in is because of people like Sean Hannity that try to pass themselves off as good people who look into the camera for 30 and 40 years at a time and blatantly lie to their audience and put America last. Sean Hannity is not America first. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with Chris Chamasiros.